Good morning, everyone. It is Brenda Quintana, and I am back from the Stampin' Up! Incentive trip. Let me get myself centered. There we go. It's hard because it's a mirrored effect, but I am back. We had a fabulous time in London, and then we were on the incentive trip last week, and it was a whirlwind. It always starts off slow. You get on the ship and you think, wow, I have a week of this, and then it's just boom and it's gone. There were so many cool things we did and saw. I can't even quantify everything, but it was really, really cool. If you're listening to this live right now, if you would like to just let me know in the chat box if you can hear me. Sometimes I have trouble with my audio. I would love to make sure that I am actually recording my voice as well as my video. But anyway, I wanted to share with you a photo of my trip. Let me turn my image on. This was me a few days ago in Athens, and we were that is the Parthenon in the background, and it looks like it was it was going to be a hot day, but then when we were up top on the Acropolis, a wind came along and it just really cooled things down. Like, not that it was cold, but it was definitely pleasant. It was one of the most pleasant days we had in Greece because the temperature actually was pleasant because of the wind. And my hair went a little bit wild, and so I thought I'd share this photo. It was a windy day. And there were so many people up there, as you can see in the background. And when we were trying to leave, it was a bit of a crush because it's a little bit of a bottleneck to get in and out. You kind of come in the same space as you go out. And yeah, it was a little crazy, but we had a great time. All of my my husband and son were along with me on the trip, as well as my parents-in-law. So there were 5 of us total, and it just was awesome. And so thank you to everyone who follows me, and my customers and my downline team who helped me earn the trip. It was a fabulous, fabulous time. And I have to say that I really think that the trip helps in so many ways. I think it helps feed into the creativity, all the things that we see, all of the things that get us out of our comfort zone. I know sometimes I like to be in my comfort zone in my little craft room, but this gets me out of the house. It gets me experiencing new things, seeing new things, the art that I saw, the history. It was just incredible. But I'm happy to be back. I do like my comfort zone. I do love my craft studio. It was great. But today is Casing Tuesday, and I have a great technique for you today, so you'll want to stick around for that. First of all, it's kind of 2 things, Casing Tuesday, and I'm sharing a technique that I'm using on the card. So let's just take a look at the card for today. This is the card that we are copying out of the catalog. If you want to follow along, it is on page 123 of the catalog of the 2019-2020 annual catalog, and it is that soft sea foam card. I love the stamp set on this card, and I debated whether or not to actually recreate this card. It is a beautiful card, and so I would say go ahead and recreate it if you want it. It is beautiful, but I wanted to do something a little different. If you need help with a sketch, we have that also up. You can get that on my blog, and there is the sketch for this challenge. You can use the measurements. I have slightly changed the measurements, so my measurements are also on the blog, but this is a good guide to help you get those layers just to the right size so your card looks something like the original card. So do grab that sketch off of my blog if you need that help. All right, well, I'm going to switch over to my other catalog, my other camera so that you can see what I'm doing, and we can take a look at how we're going to do this card. And hello to everyone who has joined me. All right, here is my card for today, and I am using a new stamp set that is new in the catalog, and this stamp set is called Will Walrus Be Friends. And let me tell you, this stamp set is so cute and has some really punny greetings. Like, you know how some cards say, "From all of us." Well, this stamp set says, "From all of me," meaning, of course, walruses are large animals. So I think that's kind of funny. And then there's "Thanks big time." And then you could pair these two together. "Ready or not, it's your birthday." I mean, they're just absolutely adorable. I don't know too many people that love walruses as an animal or have that as a symbol, but this stamp set will just keep your cards very fun. So I really recommend this stamp set. So let me pop that out of the way. And today we're going to be doing a technique. I'm calling this technique bleaching with a watercolored background. You can do this with any kind of background that has been created with watercolors. You can also use it with our new sprinkles. This technique, I'm going to see if I can pull up the names of people that have inspired me, because it was actually one of my team members who posted a bunch of samples on our team Facebook group, and I was like, wow, I've never seen the bleaching technique done this way. Tell me, where did you get this idea? So she told me she found a video online by a woman named Gail O'Neill, and she also goes by Gail SU, I believe. I'm not, or maybe Gail Sue, but I think she means Gail SU. And she had gotten the technique or seen it by a demonstrator named Elodie Tanchot, I think is her name. She's a French demonstrator. She also goes by the name of Elo Stamp. If you would like to see those original videos, please go to my blog and click on the names in that first paragraph, and it will take you to those two stampers. I'm going to show you how I did this particular card, but if you want to see more samples, I highly recommend that you go to those two fabulous demonstrators and check out their videos. Just keep in mind that Elodie, her videos in French, so you will probably do more watching if you don't understand the French language, but I actually learned something from both of those demonstrators. So sometimes stamping is a universal language. All right, so I'm going to start off with a piece of watercolor paper, and this video, I know it's going to go a little longer today, but bear with me because I have a lot of information to share with you, and I think you will learn something. We have new watercolor paper. It is called Fluid 100 watercolor paper, and this paper is better than our old paper because it has less texture to it. I don't know, let me just pull out a piece here if I can show you. I have a piece of our old watercolor paper right here. This is my right hand on my camera right now. I'm not sure if it will be turned around for you. And then on my left here is the other one. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but the old paper has much more texture to it, and this fluid watercolor paper is a lot smoother. So if you've been using our old watercolor paper, go ahead, use it up, but I do really love this new watercolor paper, and I'm not sure, I didn't try the technique on my leftover scraps. I just jumped in with the new fluid watercolor paper, and I think it is fabulous. So give it a try. And so that's what I have right here. And this piece of paper I cut to 3 7/8 by 3 1/4 inches. You're also going to need a piece of cling wrap or saran wrap paper. This is the one that I used right here. It's just Glad cling wrap. This is what we're going to be using to create our watercolor background. And you just want to put this over top of your piece, and then you're going to be using, or I'm going to be using, these are some new markers that we got this year. These are new in colors. They're the 2019-2021 in color markers. And I'm going to be using 2 colors out of that. I'm going to be using the Seaside Spray and the Pretty Peacock colors. I'll be using the brush tip. And what we're going to do is we're going to color on the saran wrap, and we're basically using the watercolor paper in the background as a guide to how big we're going to create this area right here, because I don't want it to go all the way to the edges. Part of the charm of this particular watercoloring thing is that it is a splotch in the center and it doesn't go to the edges. So I'm going to try really hard to kind of keep my coloring in the center right here. I'll start off with my lighter color, and I'm just going to kind of create a boundary that I want to stay in. And I'm just scribbling, and notice I'm holding my marker on the angle so I don't break down the tip. And I'm scribbling in kind of a space that I want to stay in. This is a very light marker, so it's going to have minimal impact color-wise on my thing, but I just want to start with that color. Now I'm going to take my brighter color, which is Pretty Peacock, and I'm going to just add some color in the center here, just scribbling. This looks terrible, doesn't it? Yeah, you're probably wondering at this point how the heck I got this beautiful background, and I'm hoping it will work out just as wonderfully as it did when I was working on it yesterday, but we shall see, right? Okay, now I'm going to lift this off, and I'm just going to put it to the side for a moment. Okay, so now on my watercolor piece, I'm going to take my Aqua Painter that I filled with water, and I'm going to kind of keep, I'm just going to color this piece in the center, approximately in the same area that I had colored my marker, okay? So just kind of keeping it towards the center, and I'm just gonna color that whole space, not color, add water to this center piece, and I'm also gonna add a few little water droplets, maybe 5 in that space. Now I'm going to take this piece, flip it over, and very carefully add it to the center. And now I'm going to smush it around. I'm going to kind of drag out the color to the edges, but I don't want it to go super far. Like I said, I want to keep that color in the center. I know on the one side it seems to be moving further, so I'm going to spread it out. Elodie actually used her finger to kind of spread out the color just a little bit to kind of create like little fingers that go to the edge. And you can do that too, because there's a little bit of water trapped underneath here. So that's kind of the cool part. You can move the water around. I'm going to try and keep it even a little bit on both edges. I see that this one has spread a little bit more than my other one. Okay, once you like how that has spread out, you can lift this off and set it aside. You can reuse your saran wrap if you wipe it off. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to kind of bend it in the watercolor paper so the color kind of moves to the center a little bit. And I'm going to take my heat tool to speed up the process. And I'm going to just start drawing this. Each time you do this, it's going to look different depending on how much color you put on your piece. So you're going to experiment a little bit with colors. since we're bleaching this out, it's probably going to be better if you use some darker colors to create a darker area so we can bleach out the area. Okay, I feel like it's starting to dry. You want it really dry though, because if it's not dry, things are going to move around and you're not going to get the results you want. You want to make sure you have your thing dry. You can, if you want, you can set it aside to dry, but it's going to take longer. And if you're impatient like me, okay, I think that's pretty good. Turn that off for a moment. All right. Okay, so I kind of like that splotch. It's a little different than my original splotch. It's a little lighter, but it will work. Next, we're going to need StazOn. You must use StazOn, or you could also emboss your image. But if you don't use StazOn, your image will run because bleach is quite potent. I find that my StazOn pad dries out a little bit. I don't keep my StazOn too inky. So sometimes I like to add just a little bit of StazOn just at the last moment, right before I'm going to actually ink up my stamp in it, just to give it a little bit more ink right on the top. So that's what I'm doing right here. That's just my StazOn refill. And then I'm going to take my Walrus stamp. I'm going to ink this little guy up. Make sure he's all inked, because if you don't stamp this one right, you don't really have a second shot. So of course you can create a new background, but you want to make sure that you get this pretty right. I'm going to stand up so I can see. I'm going to center this guy right in the center. And I'm just going to stamp it down. I want to make sure I have a good image. Ooh, that's pretty good. And while I have my ink pad out, I also cut myself a little square of watercolor paper so I could match my watercolor. This one is 1 3/4 inches by 1 inch. I'm just going to ink up my greeting, and I'm going to just center that in my rectangle. Oh, I stamped it upside down, but hey, that's okay because it doesn't matter either way. Okay, and I'm going to close up my StazOn so I don't add StazOn to myself or anything else that I don't want StazOn on. All right, so we're getting closer. We're going to take out, I suggest using some sort of glass container or something a little heavy to put your bleach in. And bleach kind of loses its efficacy if you leave it sitting out. So if you want to reuse the bleach, you would need a closed container. And Gail suggested that you make sure it's not a plastic container, because she had a couple of little spills with her container, and I totally agree. You should have something that's a little heavy so that there's less chance of you knocking it over. If you have a little container with a lid, something that's a little heavier or sturdier, I would suggest that. Something that won't react with the bleach would be best, so probably something in glass would be really good. I'm just going to pour enough that I'm going to use for now, and I just throw away the excess bleach that I have, because if it sits around for a long time, it just loses its efficacy. So just to let you know, look at, this is the bleach right here. This is Clorox splashless bleach that I'm using. I think you can use regular bleach too. When I did, there's a different bleaching technique that you use with, you use it with regular cardstock instead of this watercolor technique. So when I did that technique way back in the day, they recommended using the splashless bleach. It's a little less liquidy. It has a little bit more, I don't know, substance to it or thickness to it. So that's why I suggest this one. Gail went off brand, and I think so did the other demonstrator, I think her name was Elodie. Elodie, yes. They went off-brand with their watercoloring tools, but I highly recommend our Aqua Painters. I love them. And if you buy a package, you get two. You can use the big brush tip. You get a big brush and a smaller brush. Use the big one for your water and the smaller one for your bleach, and I think it will work really well. All right, let me grab some bleach here. This Aqua Painter is completely dry. There's nothing in it. I'm just dipping my brush into the bleach. So I'm just using this as a thing that I dip my bleach into. I'm not actually putting any bleach into the barrel. I'm going to start off by painting my walrus with the bleach. And you won't notice anything at first, but in a little bit, you're going to notice my little walrus is going to start getting lighter. Now, when I did this originally, I noticed that the watercolor paper took a lot longer to bleach out. And so what I found very interesting about that is if I bleach certain areas more than others, I could create different coloring or different shading. So I decided that I was going to bleach my iceberg more than my walrus. And that way I don't have to color my walrus at all. I'm just going to bleach my little iceberg more so it's very white. And I'm going to leave my walrus, I'm just going to hit it once. And that way it will go into a lighter blue than my background. And my iceberg will be a little lighter, like, you know, ice would be maybe a little lighter. Maybe not always, but I think we think of ice as being white. So if you just kind of hit that, notice my walrus is like a light blue or a lighter blue, and my iceberg is turning white because I'm keeping on hitting it with the bleach. I think that's one of the great things about using watercolor paper too, because it's got a little bit more, you can hit it a little bit more with liquid, and it can take a little bit more of that. Okay, now I want to hit my little tusks. Just come in and hit them a little bit more with a little extra white so they go a little whiter. So see how cool that is? I hope you can see that. My iceberg went completely white, and my walrus is a different shade of blue now than the background. And so I've kind of created that two-toned bleaching effect, which I think is kind of cool. So I'm just going to set this aside, put my bleach out of the way so I don't hit it. All right, let's do some embossing. I'm going to be using the High Seas embossing folder for the background. So I just want to show you that. I have my Big Shot here. This is still the die cutting machine that I am using. So I'll use the base platform. Then I'm going to use the High Seas embossing folder. This is a piece of vellum, and I cut this piece to 3 inches by 5.5 inches. I want my waves to go across horizontally, so I'm going to put this in the machine like this so that the length is going like this. This is one of our new embossing folders. So when it's a new 3D embossing folder, it's slightly different thickness than our previous embossing folders. So I take it and I do a little blue mark around it. So any of our 3D embossing folders that you purchase now, mark it in a way so that you know that you need to either shim it up or use our new embossing plate. This plate is called the 3D embossing folder plate. You'll find it in the supply list that I have on my blog. So I note blue square around my Stampin' Up logo, and then I use this plate. One thing to note with this, I was using this incorrectly before. I was putting my plate down first and then my embossing folder on top. And I had an embossing folder that started to curl really badly because I did that. I would rather see my embossing plate curl than my embossing folders, because after a while that will mean that they're not usable. So put your embossing folder down first and then put your plate on top. I'm thinking that this is going to curl eventually, but this will still be usable if it curls. If your embossing folder curls, it won't be so good. So I'm just going to run this through. And let's see how that looks. I thought the C's embossing folder would look really good. See right here? I think you can hold it up to the light. Would look really good with this particular card because you would think the walrus would be in the ocean and there would be a lot of waves. So I kind of thought I would match that up. All right, now we're going to take a card base. This is our new Pretty Peacock cardstock, and this is 11 inches by 4 1/4 inches and scored in half at the 5 1/2 inch mark. And then we're going to add this to the front. There is a little trick with vellum. Vellum is see-through, so if you put adhesive on it, it will show through. So the trick with vellum is you always want to hide your adhesive behind a layer or behind an embellishment. So I know this part of my card right here is going to be hidden by my walrus layer. So I can take that part of my image or my vellum and put Tombow on it. And then I can add it to the front of my card. I want to center it. Okay, see, you can see now the adhesive has come through, but no worries, I'm going to stick a layer right on top of that. And so I'm just going to smooth out my little walrus guy, make sure he's like a little flattened. I find this paper, maybe it's a little thinner than our old watercolor paper, but I find you can manipulate it a little bit better. So I think it's just a better watercolor paper. You're going to love it. So grab some Tombow, put it on the back of here, and then let me stand up so I can see what I am doing. Put it right there. Okay. Then I'm also going to grab my little greeting. I kept my greeting really simple instead of using a punch shape because I was doing so much work on the actual card. I thought just a little rectangle would be great. I want all the focus to be on my walrus because I did a lot of work on him. I think he's just so cute. All right, and to finish off this card, we're going to use some sequins. They are here somewhere, but they are hiding. Where did they go? That is the question. Okay, here's my take my pick tool. Let me check behind here. They are hiding. Ah, there they are. I have everything set out, but you know how you can kind of have things just in plain sight and you just can't find them? Yeah, that is what happens sometimes. Okay, I've got my take your pick tool, and this is just going to be really handy because these sequins, they're called the Iridescent Sequin Assortment, perfect for this card, but I want to pick sequins with a blue-green background to them, because I don't want to draw too much attention. See, I'll just show you. If I grab one that is in the pink, it's going to really stand out. It's going to be like, why is there a pink dot on my card? So you want to choose, come here you. You want to choose sequins that have like a blue or a green hue to them so that they don't let's see, do it like that one. I think I'm gonna go more blue. Let's see. Oh, I got a bunch of them there. Come here. Okay, I think I found one that I like. There we go. All right, so now I'm going to use mini glue dots to add them to the card. You could also use our fine tip glue pen, but I just, you know what, I just am going to go easy with these sequins and just, let me use my take your pick tool again. Pick it up. Come on. All right. Sticking these right on a glue dot. And then this one too. I'm gonna have to smush the little one so the glue dot is underneath it. So let me pick up this one and I'll stick it right here. And this one is gonna go down here. And this one will go right there. Okay, and there is the card. And you can see, like on this card, I went a little darker, so you can experiment with the backgrounds a little bit. Also, this one was a little smaller, so you can practice keeping the area smaller. When I initially did it, you kind of think, oh, I want it to be this big, but when you're doing the coloring of the markers, it's going to get a little bit bigger than where you're going to color. So if you can keep it a little smaller, you can always move your ink out. So I kind of like the splotch on this one a little better because it's darker and smaller. But you know, we're on camera and sometimes it's hard to get things perfect on camera. So what do you think? I really love this technique. And I'm really excited to see what you do with it. And I also want you to join us on our Casing Tuesday Facebook group. Let me flip over to the other camera. Oh, where am I? Ah, there I am. Okay, so I would love it if you would join us on our Facebook group. We have a group for all the cards that we share. And you can go ahead and if you're not on there already, just go ahead and ask to join the group and I will put you on there. I have not posted my card yet today. You should have seen my desk this morning. It was like covered and stuff and I was really late getting my card ready. So I have not posted my card yet over there, but as soon as I'm done with this video, I'm going to go over there and post my card and I hope to see yours later on this week. Use the layout that we posted or you can use my measurements too. Let me see. I'm going to scroll back and see if there's any questions. Oh, someone said they love my shirt. Look, I've got little bees all over my shirt. I actually got this shirt for the trip and then I never actually took it with me because I had too many things. I couldn't pack them all. But I love this shirt for this time of year because it's got that linen blend going on and I couldn't resist it. I was like, it is so cute. It has bees on it. So thank you, Catherine. Okay, let me see if there's any questions. Thank you for welcoming me back. And thank you, Karen, for saying it is a great technique. I did not come up with it, but you know, this is my own card. So I did come up with a few new things with the technique, just planning my card, being able to bleach certain areas more than others. I think that is kind of cool. And let me see. Oh, and Betty says it's the stamp set's on her wish list. It's a great stamp set. I recommend it. Okay. Oh, and Brenda says she's going to give it a try. I hope you do, and I hope if you have a chance, if you post your card. Now the card posting for Casing Tuesday, it's more for the layout rather than the technique, but I would love it if you shared the card with me, if you try the technique, or if you want to try out Casing Tuesday, you can post the card with a similar layout over on our Casing Tuesday Facebook group. So if you have any questions, there's a contact link where you can contact me. There's a shopping list for all the supplies I used on this card over on my blog, and measurements and everything else that you will need. Okay guys, I hope you have a great day, and I'm so glad to be back and sharing some new things with you. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.